losing someone is more than just a goodbye. Hi, this is Still Becoming, and today we're going to talk about grief, the grief process, the stages of grief, and some personal stories that I have for myself about grieving. I don't know if you all know this, but I've just lost someone very close to me to death this time. And on top of that, I have a double whammy because I'm also grieving people that are alive, but I can't get to see. And so this I'm having right now, I'm going through a double whammy of grief. So, so today's episode, we're going to explore, like I said, the many faces of grief. You know, we were told that grief is linear, but it is not. Grief to me is like a web, a tangled web of emotions. And I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I do have some notes here. And I hate reading off notes, but at this age, I can't remember all of this stuff that I want to tell you unless, you know, the stuff that I research and the stuff that I know from out of my heart. So I'm going to really try to give you a lot of this stuff right from my heart. So we're told that grief is a straight line. It is not. Grief comes in wave after wave after wave. One day you'll be feeling good, you're on top of the world. The next day, it could be anything. You could walk by an empty chair and the grief starts all over again. You could, a fragrance that you could walk past in the grocery store and smell a fragrance, and that grief wave comes back to you all over again. You may look at somebody that reminds you of your loved one and the grief comes all over again. So, and grief can last as long as it lasts. But I'm going to give you some things to try to help you to move through your grief so it's not as painful as it was in the beginning. So whether you are just hanging up that military uniform for the last time, and I know you miss your team, your comrades, your mission, or like I said, it could be the empty chair that the loved one used to sit in, like that favorite old stuffed back chair. My mother had one. It was ugly, come to think of it, but my sister still has it in her home. And when I go there, I still see Mother sitting in that chair with that Bible in her hand. And it brings back different kind of feelings for me. And I'm sure you all have experienced those things as well. Or perhaps the most painful of all the grieving is a child that is not dead, but is absent from your life. How do you grieve that? That's a different kind of pain that we're going to talk about as well. So we're going to walk through this journey together, and so we can heal together. If you're sitting right now in grief, my condolences. So this is not going to be a checklist. It's going to be a roadmap for our soul. So if you're ready, my name is Betty, and this is Still Becoming. So the stages of grief, like I said, they're not linear. You could be in any of these stages at any given time. The first one is denial. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. You know, the kind where the doctor comes out of surgery and he has that look on his face, and some doctors can't even say the word, they just drop their head and you know what the deal is. Or if that officer comes to your door and you already know what that means. If that military man comes to your door, you already know what that means. These are things you live with that you hope you would never ever see. But death is a human experience and we all have to go through it. So the first stage is denial. Denial is that I can't believe this is happening to me. We say that because it's a protection. It helps us get over the shock that someone just told us, that someone that we love, that is very close to us, is no longer with us. The second stage, and again, it may not go in this order, is anger. Sometimes, and a lot of times, our anger is directed to God. God, how could you have done this to me? How can you leave me with 3 children that I have to raise by myself? How can you do this to me? You know the feeling. I know someone out there know that feeling of grief. God, how can you have done this to me? God, are you real? Show yourself real to me. Or sometimes we may just blame ourselves. Okay? We just go through, just blame yourself. These are, whatever it is, whether you're blaming God or you're blaming the situation or you're blaming yourself, just remember, these are all natural responses to the grieving process. The bargaining one. The if I only staged. If I only had did this. If I only had told him to stay home that day. If I only had, whatever your only if. That is your bargaining stage. Lord, if I do this right, will you save me from another one? So you're bargaining, and bargaining never works because they're gone already. So we go through the bargaining stage. We lose all control of our power, and this is why we're bargaining with a higher source, because we know we don't have any power, and we feel so powerless. And then comes depression. And depression never, ever shows up by itself. Depression always brings loneliness. Depression always brings fear. Depression always runs in a group of 3. So the depression is that heavy feeling of loss, that deep sadness, the kind that you are just sitting in a chair or laying in the bed for days and hours, and you don't even realize that time has gone past. Because after the funeral procession and the people leave and all the food is gone and everybody came for that moment, they all leave. And then the house is quiet. And then the sadness. And then the depression. And then the loneliness creeps up on you. And if you're lucky, maybe somebody missed you. Maybe you didn't show up at church for a couple of days. Maybe you haven't been to your local coffee shop in a couple of days. Maybe somebody noticed that you're missing, and maybe somebody will tap, tap, tap on that door and wake you out of your grievances for only a moment. And that moment feels good. And I hope we all get that moment. The 5th stage of grievances is grief is acceptance. This is when you're never okay with the loss, but you're getting on with your life. He's gone, she's gone, they're gone, and you're getting on with your life. And it's not easy, but you drag yourself up in the morning. You drag yourself back to the coffee shop. You drag yourself back to the bookstore. You drag yourself back to church. You put on a happy smile. But one thing I don't want you to do, when people say, how are you feeling? Please don't say fine, because you are not fine. You don't have to give them a whole dissertation about how you're feeling, but just say something like, I've had better days. Keep me in your prayers. That's all it takes. So those are the 5 stages that we will weave in and out of in depression. I remember when my husband passed away, I went through a stage. I don't even know if it fits into any of these stages, where it was a delusional stage where I went back to work quickly because I thought getting back to work would really help me out. And it helped me, not be home and not look in the closet and not have that smell of his smell, his fragrance that was essentially his. I wanted to get away from that, so I went to work. But one day at work, I think maybe it was the first or second day, I went to Popeyes. I drove to Popeyes. I remember exactly. It was in June. It was hot. I was in Vegas and it was hot. And I drove to Popeyes to get some lunch. And on my way back, I saw my husband, but I didn't see him as he was 20 years when we were together. I saw him as the young man when we first met. The same exact clothes on, the cap, the leather. I saw him. He was walking down the street and I eased up on that gas and I followed him because I was sure in my mind that was my husband. I was in a state of confusion. We can just add that to the list, a state of confusion. But what happened was he went into a gated community, but the gates didn't open. He just vanished and morphed right into the gate. I remember being on the side of the road, crying my eyeballs out, saying, come back, don't leave me. And I'm sure people that was passing by, I don't know what they thought. I didn't even care what they thought. I was just so deep into my grieving and so deep into my sadness until my phone rang and got me out of my stupor. It was my supervisor. He said, Betty, you've been gone for hours. Is everything okay? And I broke down. I said, no, Tony, nothing is okay. I just followed my husband and he just went into a community. He didn't even open up a gate. He just morphed right into the community. He just vanished in front of my eyes. And I said, and I know that was him, Tony. I know that was him. And my supervisor said, I'll be right there to get you. Where are you? If y'all have went through that kind of grief and that kind of sorrow, please let me know in the comments because I don't want to feel like I'm alone in this. I don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. So let's talk about grief and suffering. Because me going seeing my husband, that was a part of suffering. So the core philosophy of grief and their view on suffering. We're going to break it down to core philosophy and then the Christian philosophy and where they stand on the spectrum of grief and suffering. So the core philosophy is impermanence. If you're familiar with the Buddha philosophy, everything is impermanent. Do not get attached to anything because everything will go away. If you came into my house when I first got my plants, you could see that they were beautiful. But if you came today, they're all dead. And if I gotten attached to them, I would be grieving those plants. So Buddha says impermanence. Grief is tied to our attachment. When we get attached to something and it is taken from us, rather death or whatever, someone to come and take us and rob you, and if you are attached to that thing, you will have grief. And if you cling to it, you will have suffering. So that is the Buddhist philosophy but healing comes through, what is the word? Healing comes, but you have to recognize that the loss is a universal loss. Everybody, everything will pass. So do not get attached to them if you believe in the Buddhist philosophy. And it's a really good philosophy because we shouldn't get attached to anything because everything is impermanent. The Christian philosophy is this. Suffering arises from, still in the Buddha. Suffering arises from craving and clinging. The goal is to get to a state where you can honor your loss. You can honor the loss of that spouse. You can honor whatever it is that you lost, to get to a stage of honoring. You see, when my daughter took those grandchildren from me, I cling to the thought of them. Every Sunday, I would run downstairs at 10:30 and hoping to see them coming to church, but they weren't there. I couldn't, and to this day, I have not made pancakes because pancakes was me and Aria's thing. We would make pancakes in the morning and we would use so much butter, and I'm surprised I never had a heart attack. Okay? And we would have so much fun. We'd have the chef hat on, and we had this T-shirt that says "Chef in Training," and then breakfast was a big deal for us. And we was put out a spread as if we was expecting people, but it would just be me, Aria, and Myra, and we would eat that breakfast, and we would have so much fun. And at the end of it, the kitchen would be so dirty because they hadn't learned how to clean up as they go. Okay, but those memories of those Saturdays and Sundays, because like I said, I had these children every weekend. So when I was no longer allowed to see them, that grief hit hard. For a whole month, I sat there and I wrote letters to my granddaughters every single day until I realized I was suffering. I wasn't just grieving. I was suffering because I was holding on. But I never mailed the letters. I kept them in a safe place. So when I leave this earth, which I will, that they can find these letters, and they will be able to read these letters, and they will know that Grandma never ever forgot them, that I've always held them dear to my heart. And if you are in the stage right now where someone has taken your grandchildren from you or your child from you through a custody battle, maybe you lost a custody battle and you're grieving that custody battle, and maybe you can see your child every once in a while, or maybe you lost the custody battle permanently and you cannot see your children unless there's supervised visits, you can still write those letters. But only write those letters as long as it gives you pleasure. Because when they start the borderline on suffering, it is time to cease writing those letters. Okay, so that was my story. So the spiritual perspective, the Christian perspective it's a message of hope. It's a message of resurrection. In the Christian philosophy, death is not final. I think somewhere in the Bible says, death, you have no sting. Death is just a gateway rather than a dead end. It is belief that there will be a resurrection and you will be able to see your loved ones again. So death does not have the last word. It is a promise of eternity. Sit with that. If you're grieving right now, sit with both of those philosophies. Whichever one fits best for you, sit with that. It will give you peace. The Christian philosophy on suffering. Suffering could be a test. I believe that my writing those letters to my children was my test. Are you going to continue to sit here and suffer and write those letters? Or are you going to press into me, pick up your word again, and start reading your word and finding joy in your word and finding joy in your everyday? Because there is joy even in suffering. We don't see it at first, but after a while, we can find joy in the suffering. So I think that is Jesus' way of testing us to see, hey, I know you're in pain. I know you're in sorrow. I understand your pain. But your personal strength the message is the reunion that will come. Sit with that. Then there's the hidden grief. The hidden grief it's a special kind of grief for particular circumstances and a particular person that you are. Let's go to the military. People that are in the military, they have a different kind of grief. Yes, they go through all the stages that we go through, but they are wounded soldiers. They have left soldiers on the field. They have lost their tribe. They've lost a lot to save us and our country. If you're a military person, listen to this right now. Thank you for your service. Because freedom is not free. It is a price to pay. And every man and woman that has put on a military uniform, they are fighting for our freedom. And we need to respect that. So their grief is going to be different. It's called disenfranchised grief. It is when you lost an identity, your tribe, your mission. It may also feel like it's a death. It is a death because you took off that uniform, and that's a death. You lost your buddy in war, and that's a death. So they experience a different kind of death because they fought for our country and they lost their lives, and their friends lost their life. And taking off that uniform is a death in itself. I remember when my daughter took off her uniform. She was Marine. I remember that day. She said, "Mom, I don't know what to do with myself. The uniform." She kept saying she was crying. She kept saying the uniform. I'm no longer be able to wear this uniform. I'm hanging up my uniform. I'm no longer going to be in service. I didn't understand the grief of that, what she was going through, but I was there to hold place for her, to listen to her, okay? Because hanging up that uniform, that meant a death of a purpose. She had a purpose within that uniform. So for military people, that's the difference. They're grieving their purpose as well. And then there's the missing child, the alienated child. This is the child that hasn't died. This is the child, for whatever reason, never came back home. Whether they was kidnapped, whether they just decided on their own free will that I am walking away, I'm closing the door behind me, and I'm never looking back. That creates a hole in a parent's heart that we hold on for so many years, because how do you get closure when someone is not permanently dead? So what we do is they're physically here, but psychological. They're physically gone, but psychologically absent. Physically here, still in their world, but psychologically absent. This keeps us parents in a state of bargaining. I remember when my daughter walked away, it happened suddenly. We were having a conversation and laughing and having a good time like we always did. And she called back, and I thought there was something else that she wanted to say. And it seemed like somebody had put a gun to her head. Because the girl that I was talking to a few minutes ago, Happy, was not the child that I was talking to again. She said, "Mom," like she's reading the script, "I'm no longer going to see you again. I don't want to see you again. I don't want to see my brothers and my sisters. I don't want to see my aunts and my uncles." And she went on and on about she didn't want to see us. And I just sat there with that phone in my hand in shock. And I'm thinking all kinds of thinking, is somebody holding a gun to her head? What's going on? And when I went to call her back, she had disconnected her number. You see, and I've been sitting in that grief for 10 years. And for 10 years, I had a consistent dream every single night that I was all over the world looking for my child. I was in China, I was in Australia, I was in Greece, I was everywhere. You name the country, I was there in my dream every night for 10 years searching for my child. And maybe I was searching for the child in me, or maybe I was searching for my real child. But what I know is that I was suffering. And then one day I wrote a letter. But I had wrote many. But this last letter, I put the ball in her court. and I close that door of suffering. I will miss her. She will always have a place in my heart. Like my grandchildren will always have a place in my heart. But that last letter took me out of my suffering. You have a child that's missing for whatever reason. You might want to write a closure letter, and we'll get to some exercises on how to do that. So now I want to transition into identifying what stages of grief that you are in right now. Because like I said, grief is not linear. It is a cobweb. It's a mess. And you could be in multiple stages of grief at the same time. So some exercises to help us identify where we might be in this spectrum of grief. I want to go through some of those right now. The first one is the weight, like a weight that you lift up. If you are sitting right now and you lost a loved one by whatever source, and you are sitting there right now and you feel like a boulder is sitting in front of you, and no matter how much you try to push, you can't get that boulder to move. You know, imagine the boulder that was at the tomb of Jesus when Mary and Magdalene went. That kind of boulder can't be moved, not by two little women. If you're sitting there right now today in your grief and you're feeling like that boulder is there, that stone, you can't move it, that's called depression and denial. And like I said, depression never shows up by themselves. This time they're bringing denial, and they're going to bring sadness with them as well. So if that's where you are, that's where you are right now. This too shall pass. The next one is the fire. You ever felt that fire that starts to come up in your bosom? And at first it's warm, and then the angrier you get, the hotter it gets, and it almost to a point where it just starts to boil inside your stomach. That kind of grief is the anger stage. And it's okay to be there, because we all go to the anger stage. That's the stage where we want to blame God. We want to blame the situation. We want to blame ourselves. It's okay to sit in the anger stage. This too shall pass. Or how about the backpack? It's your survival pack. It's got your water. It's got your first aid kit. It's not heavy. It's just your survival kit. It may have your tempo wear in it, and it's your backpack, and you're okay carrying it because it's not light, it's not heavy, it's not burdensome. It's just have everything that you need. All your essentials is in that backpack. And that loved one that you lost is a part of that essential, and they're in that backpack, but you come to the place of acceptance. When the burden is easy and light, you've come to the place of acceptance. But wait, you can still circle around in all those other ones, depending on where you are, what you see, and what you smell. It can still come back around. But ultimately, we want to get to a place of acceptance. Everything has an expiration date. This is why when you see on a tombstone, the date that they were born and the date that they died, and in between is the life that is lived. But everybody that you walk through that graveyard, there is a date that they died. You will never walk through a graveyard and see 1973 dash and nothing. That will never happen. And if you ever see that, hit me up and let me know. But you'll never see that, because everything has an ending day. That's why we shouldn't get attached to things and people. But we should always treat people kind and loving when they're here, Because keep in mind, you got an expiration date, I got an expiration date, everybody has an expiration date. Don't treat people bad because you don't know when that expiration date is. This morning, I woke up because I knew I was going to do this video on grief. And I remember when I first got out of school for counseling, my first client was a young girl. She couldn't have been no more than 18 years old. She had already had a 3-year-old. And then on top of that, she had triplets. So my job as a counselor was to do a home visit with her twice a week, 3 times a week, to check on her. And every time I went to that girl's house, she never had any help. The triplets would cry at the same time. They would use the bathroom at the same time. And then the 3-year-old would be running around the house trying to help the mother. But the mother was 18 years old. Years later, I was in the mall. And I saw some nuns. And they had the 3 triplets. They was about 2 years old then. And I stopped the nuns. I said, is that so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, mother name so-and-so? They said, yes. I said, why are they with you? She said, she passed. This morning when I woke up, that young woman was on my mind. I thought that what ifs? What could I have done different? Could I have asked to be at her house every day? Could I have asked to be at her house for more hours? What could I have different? I went through that whole what if, grieving that young woman all over again. And this thing happened when I first got out of college. So that's what I said. Just because you're at the acceptance, anything can trigger it and bring it back. But at the end of the dream, I was roller skating on a smooth surface. And I remember there was a lady, and I roller skated right on around her with my hand on my back. You know how you roller skating and your hand on your back. And that was the Spirit of the Lord telling me, you did the best you can do, except everything is smooth now. So, and I say that also to say this, listen to your dreams. When you have a dream, always wake up and say, Lord, interpret this dream for me. Because dreams are not there for your nightly amusement. They're there for a reason. So, with that, let's go on to the core values audit. This is for my military people. These are exercises to help you get through some of the grief. Once you hang up that uniform, I want you to write a letter to yourself and say what that uniform meant to you. Did it mean service? Did it mean protection? Did it mean discipline? Whatever that uniform meant to you, write it down. Also, write down what can you do right now. Those same values that you had in the military. As a civilian, you can use them in the world that we're in now. You can use them to mentor. You can use them to volunteer. You can also write a letter to yourself, thanking yourself for your service. And once you write whichever one you choose, soldier, stand down. Your healing is coming. Now here's an exercise from, I have to put my glasses on this one. This is going to be from the Buddha's perspective. So these are just like some affirmations you can say for yourself to help you with your healing. All that is dear to me and everyone I love is going to change. There is no way to escape separation from them. This is not a cause for pain, but it is to ground the soul in the reality that everything changes. You can also view it from a Christian perspective. You can tell God exactly how much pain you're in. You can tell God how much it hurts. You can say that to him. Don't hold back. Let it out. Let it all out. Write it down, scream it out, whatever, just let it out. And then you can ask God, let your presence be here with me. Let your Holy Spirit be here with me as I go through this grieving process, because I'm still grieving that double whammy that was put on me. And so I need the presence of the Lord to be with me. And you can also end with, Lord, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. And I trust that you will never leave me and never forsake me. And you can start your healing process again. Your exercise for the missing child. You want to move on from there and healed. You may say, in your own words or something like this, my child is gone from my daily life, but they are still alive in my heart. This will help the brain stop searching for closure. I wish I had did that 10 years ago, because my brain searched all over the world. But, hold on a second, somebody's calling. And so I never had closure until a month ago. I finally stopped having those dreams, because I finally said this: she's still alive, and she's still in my heart. And that brought my closure to my brain and my heart. You can also do the open chair meditation. You can set a chair in front of you and sit quietly, and you can think about that child, and you can breathe in compassion, and you can breathe out peace. And you can do that over and over again. Breathe in compassion and breathe out peace, and let the child go. So today, we talked about grief, and that there is no final goodbye. So if this video has spoke to you, I want you to press like. And the reason why you want to press like right now more than ever, because you want to say thank you to the militaries. You want to say thank you to yourself. You want to say thank you to the universe. By hitting that like button, this is going to help your grieving. So just know that you are still becoming. And I have to put my glasses on for this one, so y'all excuse me again. I want you to tell me which are the stages of grief that you are sitting in today. Share your heart with me today. I can't be with you there personally to hold your hand, but please share your heart with me today. Say, Betty, I'm in this stage of grief right now. Betty, this is what's hurting me right now. This is a community of like-minded people, and we will hold you up in prayer, okay? You can talk to us. You can talk to me. Tell me where you are right now, and share your heart below. We're here to hold space for one another. So click the like button to share your love, to share your understanding with others. You may be still grieving, but you're still becoming. Because before we leave this quiet space, I want to carry with us a final blessing. May you find strength of hope. May you find strength and hope. And may you find peace in the truth of impermanence, or the promise of a future reunited. May you trust that your story is not finished. Even in the quiet, you are still growing. Even in this loss, you are still being found. You are resilient, you are loved, and you are still becoming. Hello, my name is Betty, and it has been a pleasure to share with you my grief, and I hope to hear from you, that you will share with me your grief. And until we meet again, my friend, be blessed. Bye-bye.